My name is Lydia, and on what should have been the happiest day of my life, my in-laws abandoned me at an international airport with no passport, no money, and no way home. A cruel test disguised as a family tradition. 3 days later, their bank accounts were empty, their investments liquidated, and their reputations in ruins. They called it a lesson. I called it karma. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. When my husband Daniel's family left me stranded in that terminal, they thought they were teaching me about loyalty. Instead, they learned that some games have consequences they never imagined. And when they came crawling back, 15 years later demanding help, I had to decide. Do I save the family that tried to break me, or do I finally walk away? Because this time, I wasn't the desperate bride waiting for rescue. This time, I controlled how the story would end. The security footage shows a woman alone at Gate 37, Frankfurt International Airport. Her wheeled suitcase sits beside her, her shoulders gradually slumping as the minutes turn to hours. A phone clutched in her hands, screen illuminating her increasingly panicked face as she checks it again and again. That woman was me, 15 years ago, slowly realizing that something was terribly wrong. It's strange how trauma slows time. Each minute in that terminal stretched like hours as I tried to make sense of what was happening. We had been on our way back from Daniel's cousin's wedding in Prague. The 6 of us, Daniel and me, his parents Mason and Mariah Bennett, his sister Allison and her husband Ray, had stopped in Frankfurt for our connecting flight to Boston. We had a 3-hour layover. Let's get something to eat, Mason had suggested with that practiced smile that never quite reached his eyes. I remember Mariah's hand on my shoulder, squeezing just a little too hard. Why don't you wait here with the bags, Lydia? We'll bring something back. I was exhausted from the weekend of pretending to be good enough for their precious son, so I agreed. I watched them walk away, the 4 Bennetts and my husband of only 8 months, disappearing into the crowd. My phone buzzed 20 minutes later. Consider this your first real test as a Bennett. Let's see if you're resourceful enough to make it home on your own. Don't try calling Daniel. His loyalty is to family first. I called anyway. All their phones went straight to voicemail. I checked our joint account. Empty. My separate account. Frozen. My heart pounded as airport security started giving me concerned looks. I had no passport. Daniel had been safekeeping our documents. No ticket. They had those too. No money, no ID, no way home. That was the moment I realized I hadn't. Married into a family. I'd married into a cult where devotion was measured by cruelty, where family meant control, and where I would never, ever be good enough. What I didn't know then, as I sat blinking back tears in that airport terminal, was that they had made a critical mistake. You see, before I met Daniel, before I became the eager-to-please daughter-in-law desperate for approval, I had been someone else entirely. Someone they never bothered to learn about. Someone who knew how systems worked. Someone who understood power. Someone who never, ever forgot a betrayal. They thought they were testing me. They had no idea they were testing themselves. And they failed spectacularly. As night fell and the airport grew quiet, I made a decision. This wouldn't be a story about a woman abandoned. This would be a story about consequences. I had spent 8 months trying to earn their acceptance, modifying my behavior, my appearance, my very identity to fit their expectations. Now I would show them exactly who they had messed with. I had one asset they didn't know about, one card they hadn't managed to take from me: knowledge. For months, as the perfect daughter-in-law, I had listened as they discussed their businesses, their investments, their clever little tax strategies. I had smiled politely through dinner conversations about offshore accounts and shell companies. I had organized Mason's home office, seen the passwords taped inside desk drawers, filed the documents they thought I was too simple to understand. The Bennetts had built their fortune by bending rules and breaking people. They saw me as just another acquisition for their golden son, another test subject in their twisted family experiments. But they had forgotten to ask one essential question: who was I before I became a Bennett? As the janitor mopped the floor, around my feet, and the last flight departed, I approached the airport information desk. The woman there had been watching me for hours, concern etched on her face. "I need help," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "My family has abandoned me here. I have no passport, no money, but I do have information that some very interested parties would pay a great deal to acquire." Her eyes widened, but she made the call. 3 hours later, I was sitting across from a man who introduced himself only as Matthias, from the Financial Crimes Division of the German Federal Police. "Mrs. Bennett," he said, his accent thick but his English perfect. "Perhaps you should start at the beginning." And I did. I told him everything about the Bennett's family tests designed to break new members until they were compliant, about the offshore accounts I had seen documented in Mason's office, about the shell companies and tax evasion schemes I had pieced together while playing the role of the dutiful daughter-in-law, about how they had left me stranded without identification or resources as some sort of twisted loyalty test. Matthias listened, taking notes, occasionally asking for clarification. When I finished, he slid a phone across the table. "Call someone you trust, not your husband, someone from before." There was only one person I could think of: my college roommate, Meredith, the person I had been before the Bennetts consumed my identity. The call went through at 3 a.m. Boston time. "Lydia?" Her voice was groggy with sleep, but instantly alert. "What's wrong? Where are you?" "Frankfurt," I said, my voice finally breaking. "I need help." 48 hours later, Meredith had wired money for a temporary passport and emergency flight home. By then, German authorities had already begun freezing the Bennett family's European assets. By the time my plane touched down in Boston, the BAO investigation had expanded to include their American holdings. And the Bennetts? They had arrived home to increasingly frantic calls from their financial advisors, to frozen accounts and search warrants, to the empire they had built crumbling around them in real time. The test they had designed for me had become their own downfall. That was 15 years ago. I rebuilt my life from the ashes of that marriage, reclaimed the woman I had been before Daniel Bennett. I changed my name back, moved cities, created a new career helping others escape financially abusive relationships. I thought the Bennetts were firmly in my past. Until last week, when a text message appeared on my phone from an unknown number. "We know it was you. And now we need your help." The Bennetts had found me, and they weren't finished with their games. The conference room falls silent as I finish my presentation. 15 executives from one of the largest banking institutions in the country stare at me with a mixture of discomfort and dawning realization. On the screen behind me, the final slide displays the stark statistics of financial abuse in relationships. "Thank you, Ms. Collins," the bank's VP of Customer Relations says, using my reclaimed surname. "Your insights on identifying patterns of control will be invaluable for our fraud prevention teams." I nod, gathering my materials. This is my life. Now, consulting with financial institutions on protecting vulnerable clients. Ironic, considering how vulnerable I once was. But that's the point. No one understands the cage of financial control better than someone who has broken free of it. As the executives file out, one woman lingers. "That was powerful," she says, "particularly your point about how abusers often present as the most charming, successful people in the room." "The most dangerous predators always wear the best disguises," I reply. And for a moment, I see Mason Bennett's perfectly practiced smile in my mind. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. My assistant Claudine meets me in the hallway with a coffee in my schedule. At 41, I've built a life that feels secure. My consultancy is thriving. My apartment in downtown Chicago overlooks the lake, and I answer to no one but myself. I have carefully constructed walls around my past. Even Claudine, who has worked with me for 5 years, knows only that I was once in a controlling marriage. The details, the airport, the Bennetts, the international financial crimes investigation, those remain buried. Your 3 o'clock canceled, Claudine says as we walk toward the elevator. But you received another text from that unknown number. Same as before. My stride falters slightly. Delete it, I say, keeping my voice neutral. If they call again, block the number. In the elevator, I check my secure email. 3 new client requests, a speaking invitation for a conference in Toronto, and a message from Meredith asking if we're still on for dinner tonight. Normal, controlled, safe. But as the elevator descends, so does my carefully maintained composure. 3 texts in 1 week, after 15 years of silence. The Bennetts have found me, and whatever they want, it won't be good. My apartment is on the 30th floor of a building with excellent security. Floor-to-ceiling windows offer panoramic views of Lake Michigan, the water a deep blue under the afternoon sun. I've decorated in cool grays and blues, calming colors, nothing like the ostentatious gold and crystal of the Bennett estate. Here, everything is chosen by me, paid for by me, controlled by me. I kick off my heels and pour a glass of wine, trying to shake the unease that has followed me since the first text arrived. The phone sits on my counter, silent, but somehow threatening. Part of me wants to change my number immediately. A deeper, more primal part wants to know what they could possibly want after all this time. The Bennett family had been Chicago royalty once. Mason's investment firm managed billions in assets for the city's elite. Mariah chaired charity boards and hosted galas. Their children, Daniel and Allison, had been groomed from birth to expand the dynasty. I had been an unexpected variable in their equation. The scholarship girl from Minnesota who somehow caught Daniel's eye during his MBA program. I was smart, ambitious, and naive enough to believe that love could transcend class boundaries. The Bennetts saw only an outsider, someone without the right pedigree or connections, someone who needed to be tested, broken, and remolded into a proper Bennett wife. For 8 months, I tried. I changed my clothes, my accent, my ambitions. I endured their subtle criticisms and not-so-subtle family traditions, bizarre loyalty tests designed to prove my devotion, spending night alone in the family's remote cabin during a snowstorm, being deliberately left behind at restaurants and events to find my own way home. Each test presented as a character-building exercise, each one stripping away another piece of my identity. The airport had been the final, unforgivable test, and they had failed it spectacularly. After returning to the States, I filed for divorce, immediately. Daniel never even contested it. His loyalty, as they had texted me, was to family first. As the financial crimes investigation intensified, the Bennetts circled their wagons. They lost millions in assets, but their lawyers managed to keep them out of prison. The last I heard, they had retreated to a much smaller estate in Wisconsin. Their social standing irreparably damaged, but their core fortune somehow preserved. I changed my name back to Collins, moved to the other side of Chicago, and rebuilt my life piece by piece. I earned my MBA, started consulting on financial security, and eventually founded my own firm specializing in helping institutions protect vulnerable clients from economic abuse. My past became a sealed box, opened only when necessary to help. Others recognized the warning signs I had missed. The doorbell rings, startling me from my thoughts. Through the security monitor, I see Meredith's familiar face. She's the only person who knows the full story, the only connection I maintained to my life before the Bennetts. "You look stressed," she says as she enters, handing me a bottle of wine. "Work or the mysterious texts?" Both, I admit, leading her to the kitchen. 3 messages in a week, all saying the same thing. We know it was you, and now we need your help. Meredith frowns as she takes a seat at the counter. At 42, she still has the same direct gaze and no-nonsense attitude that made her such a solid friend in college. After 15 years, what could they possibly want? I don't know, I say, opening the wine. And I don't care. Have you considered that it might not be them? Could be a scam. I shake my head. The first text mentioned Frankfurt specifically. No one knows about that except you and them. Meredith watches me carefully. Are you going to respond? Absolutely not. Whatever hole they've dug themselves into, they can climb out without my help. My phone buzzes on the counter. Unknown number. We both stare at it. Speak of the devils, Meredith mutters. I should ignore it. I've spent 15 years reclaiming my power, building boundaries, protecting myself from precisely this kind of intrusion. And yet, my finger swipes across the screen before I can stop myself. It's not a text this time. It's a photo. Daniel, looking 15 years older, standing beside a young woman with my eyes and his smile. Beneath the photo, 3 words that make my world tilt on its axis. Meet your daughter. My wine glass slips from my hand, shattering on the hardwood floor. Meredith jumps up, but I barely register her movement. I'm frozen, staring at the phone, at the impossible image on the screen. Lydia? What is it? Meredith's voice sounds distant, underwater. I turn the phone so she can see. Her sharp intake of breath confirms I'm not hallucinating. That's not possible, I whisper. But even as the words leave my mouth, I'm doing the math. The girl in the photo looks about 14, 15 years since Frankfurt, which means you were pregnant when you left him, Meredith says, putting it together at the same time. Did you know? I shake my head, still staring at the screen. No, I had symptoms, but with everything that happened, I thought it was stress. The thigh, girl has my high cheekbones, my auburn hair, but Daniel's eyes, Daniel's jawline, a perfect genetic blend of us both. Unmistakable. My phone buzzes again. Another text. Her name is Mariah, after my mother. She wants to meet you. This is manipulation, Meredith says firmly, taking the phone from my hands. Classic Bennett tactics. They're trying to destabilize you. She's right. This is exactly how they operate. Emotional ambushes, unexpected revelations designed to throw you off balance. But even knowing that, I can't tear my eyes from the girl's face. My daughter. A child I never knew existed. If she's real, I say slowly, if that's really my daughter, I have rights. And if it's a trap? Meredith challenges. The Bennetts destroyed you once. You really want to give them another shot? Before I can answer, the phone rings. Trow. Number. The same one. Meredith's expression hardens. Don't. But I'm already reaching for the phone. Because whatever game the Bennetts are playing, that girl's face has changed everything. Hello? My voice is steadier than I feel. Lydia. Daniel's voice, deeper than I remember, but unmistakable. Thank you for answering. 15 years of carefully constructed defenses, and just hearing his voice sends me spiraling back to who I was then. Young, in love, desperate for approval. Is she real? The question comes out raw, demanding. A pause. Yes, she's real. She's our daughter. Prove it. DNA. Test results are in your email, along with her birth certificate, medical records, school transcripts, everything you need to verify she exists. I move to my laptop, opening my email with trembling fingers. There they are. Documents, records, photos spanning 14 years. A timeline of a life I should have been part of. Classes, piano recitals, birthdays. Why now? I ask, scrolling through the evidence of my daughter's existence. Why after 14 years? Another pause. She found out about you, about what happened. She wants to meet her mother. I close my eyes, fighting for control. And the texts? We know it was you, and now we need your help. What does that mean? It means exactly what it says. Daniel's voice hardens slightly. We know you were the one who triggered the investigation, and now I need your help. With what? Not over the phone. Meet me tomorrow, the Fairmont Hotel downtown, noon. If this is some kind of twisted Bennett family test, it's not a test, Lydia. He sounds tired suddenly. It's about our daughter. She's in trouble. The call ends before I can respond. I stare at Meredith, who has heard everything. You're not actually considering meeting him, she says, but it's not really a question. I look back at the screen, at the evidence of a child I never knew I had. I have to. The Fairmont Hotel lobby is crowded with business travelers and tourists, providing the anonymous public setting I insisted on. I've arrived 20 minutes early to scope out exits and position myself with my back to a wall. Old habits. From 15 years of looking over my shoulder. I've dressed carefully. A charcoal gray suit that projects authority, low heels I can run in if necessary. My lawyer is on standby, and Meredith is sitting at the hotel bar, pretending not to know. Me but keeping watch. I've taken every precaution. Still, when I see Daniel walking toward me, my heart hammers against my ribs like it's trying to escape. 15 years have weathered him. The golden boy is gone, replaced by a man with silver threading through his dark hair and lines etched around his eyes. He's still handsome, but there's something diminished in his bearing, a heaviness that wasn't there before. Lydia. He stops a respectful distance away. Thank you for coming. I'm not here for you, I say coldly. I'm here about the girl, Mariah. He nods, gesturing to the seating area. Can we sit? I choose a small table with clear sightlines to all exits. A waitress approaches, but I wave her away. I don't want anything that could be tampered with. The documents I sent. Daniel begins. Did you look through them? Every page. I also had them authenticated by an expert. He actually smiles. At that. Still thorough, that's good. Where is she? Why isn't she here? His smile fades. She's at home, with my parents. Ice slides down my spine. Your parents? The same people who abandoned me in a foreign airport? Those are the people raising my child? It's complicated, he says, having the decency to look uncomfortable. After the divorce, after everything fell apart, they were all I had left. Spare me the family loyalty speech. I've heard it before. He sighs, running a hand through his hair. I didn't know you were pregnant when you left. By the time I found out, you had disappeared, changed your name, moved. The investigation was in full swing. My family was falling apart. So you kept my child from me for 14 years. I thought it was best, given the circumstances. She had stability with us. And honestly, Lydia, I wasn't sure you'd want a reminder of your time with my family. The audacity of his assumption makes my blood boil. You had no right to make that decision. I know that now. He leans forward. That's part of why I'm here. Mariah deserves to know her mother. But there's something in his eyes, a calculation, a desperation, that tells me this isn't just about family reconciliation. What kind of trouble is she in? I ask directly. Daniel hesitates, then reaches for his phone. He pulls up a medical record. 3 months ago, Mariah was diagnosed with a rare kidney disorder. She needs a transplant. None of us are matches. Understanding dawns. So you need my help, not for some nebulous Bennett family crisis. You need my kidney. I need you to get tested, he corrects. If you're a match, Yes, I'm asking you to consider donation. She's your daughter, too. The room seems to tilt slightly. A child I never knew, my flesh and blood, is sick, possibly dying. And after 14 years of silence, the Bennetts want a piece of me. Literally. Does she know that you're asking me for this? He looks away. Not exactly. She knows we're trying to find a donor. She knows about you now, that you're her mother, that you left before she was born. But she doesn't know I'm asking you specifically about the transplant. So you're manipulating her too. The Bennett family tradition continues. His jaw tightens. This isn't manipulation. This is desperation. She's my daughter, Lydia. Our daughter. And she's running out of time. I study his face, searching for the lies, the calculation. But all I see is fear. The kind of raw, primal fear that comes only when your child is in danger. I want to meet her first, I say finally. Before any testing, before any medical decisions. I want to meet my daughter, without your parents present. Daniel nods quickly, relief washing over his features. Of course, anything you want. And I'll have my lawyer draw up terms. If I'm a match, then we discuss custody arrangements, shared time, legal recognition of my parental rights. His expression falters. Lydia, my parents won't. Your parents have no say in this. I cut him off. Not anymore. Those are my terms. Take them or leave them. He stares at me, and for a moment I see a flash of the old Daniel, the one who once looked at me like I hung the moon. Then he nods. Just, once. Tomorrow, he says. You can meet her tomorrow. As he leaves, Meredith slides into the seat he vacated. Well, what did the devil want? I look at her, the full weight of the situation finally hitting me. He has my daughter, and she needs my kidney. The elevator ride to my apartment feels interminable. Meredith keeps talking, legal strategies, medical concerns, the likelihood this is all an elaborate Bennett scheme. But her words wash over me without registering. All I can see is that girl's face. My daughter. Mariah. You need to call your lawyer tonight, Meredith insists as I unlock my door. Before you agree to any medical testing, before you even meet her, you need legal protection. I know, I say absently, dropping my keys in the bowl by the door. Lydia, I'm serious. The Bennetts took everything from you once. Don't let them. Do it again. I turn to her, suddenly exhausted. What would you have me do, Meredith? Ignore the fact that I have a child? A sick child who might need my help? I'm saying be careful, she says, softer now. Protect yourself while you figure this out. After she leaves, I sit in the dark of my living room, staring at the city lights reflecting off the lake. The organized, controlled life I've built seems to shimmer and distort, like a mirage dissolving at my fingertips. I pull out my phone and look again at the photo of Mariah. For 14 years, she's been growing, learning, becoming a person, all without me, knowing she existed. I've missed first steps, first words, first days of school. I've missed scraped knees and bedtime stories and birthday candles. An entire childhood gone. Part of me wants to scream, to rage, to demand back all those stolen years. Another part whispers that this could still be a trap, that the Bennetts are masters of manipulation, that Daniel's desperation could be the most convincing performance yet. But what if it's not? What if my daughter is really sick? What if she needs me? I pull up the medical records Daniel sent. Pyelonephritis leading to chronic kidney disease. Progressive deterioration of function. Transplant recommended. The clinical language can't disguise. The urgency. If these records are authentic, Mariah's condition is serious. My phone rings, startling me. It's not Daniel or the unknown number, but my lawyer, Amanda Fisher. Meredith called me, she says without preamble. Said you needed urgent counsel regarding a previously unknown child and potential organ donation. Relief floods through me. This is what I need, someone practical, someone who can see through the emotional haze to the legal reality. It's complicated, I begin. Family matters always are, she replies. Start from the beginning. I tell her everything. The texts, the photo, the meeting with Daniel, the medical records, the kidney request. She listens without interrupting, making occasional notes. First, she says when I finish, we need to verify paternity legally, not just with the documents they provided. Second, we file for emergency recognition of your parental rights. Third, we get independent medical verification of her condition and prognosis. And if it's all true, if she really needs a transplant, then we make sure any donation is contingent on legally binding custody arrangements. But Lydia, her voice softens slightly, don't make any decisions tonight. Sleep on it. Meet the child first. See if this feels right. After we hang up, I try to follow her advice, try to sleep. But every time I close my eyes, I see Mariah's face, my features, Daniel's smile, our child. Around 3 a.m., I give up on sleep and go to my home office. I start researching kidney donation procedures, recovery times, success rates, risks. By dawn, I've compiled a folder of information almost as thick as the one Daniel sent me. Morning. Brings no clarity, just a dull headache and the certainty that my carefully constructed life is about to change irrevocably. I shower, dress, and call Claudine to clear my schedule for the week. Family emergency, I tell her, the words feeling strange in my mouth. For 15 years, I haven't had family emergencies. I haven't had family at all. Daniel texts the address, a townhouse in Lincoln Park, not the sprawling North Shore estate where the Bennetts once reigned. Another indication of how far they've fallen since the investigation. He assures me his parents won't be there, as I requested. Just him and Mariah. As my car approaches, anxiety coils tighter in my chest. What do you say to the child you never knew existed? How do you compress 14 years of absence into a single meeting? What if she hates me? What if she thinks I abandoned her? I sit in the car for several minutes, gathering my courage. The townhouse is elegant but modest by Bennett standards. 3 stories of red brick with black shutters and a small front garden. Nothing like the cold marble mausoleum where I spent those 8 miserable months of marriage. Finally, I force myself to approach. Before I can ring the bell, the door swings open. Daniel stands there, tension evident in every line of his body. She's nervous, he says quietly. I've told her the basics, that you didn't know about her, that you've been looking forward to meeting her. Have you told her why I left? I ask, suddenly needing to know what version of history my daughter has been taught. Something like shame flickers across his face. I told her we divorced before you knew you were pregnant, that things were complicated. That's one word for it, I say dryly. He steps back, letting me enter. The interior is tastefully decorated but lacks the ostentatious wealth the Bennetts once flaunted. Family photos line the hallway, Mariah growing up year by year, the visual timeline of everything I missed. She's in the living room, Daniel says, leading the way, and then she's there, real, solid, undeniably mine. She stands as I enter, her posture stiff, uncertain. She's tall for 14, with my auburn hair falling in waves past her shoulders. She's thinner than in the photo, her complexion paler. Signs of her illness, I realize with a pang. "Hello," she says, her voice carrying that slight Bennett cadence, the carefully modulated tones I had once tried so hard to mimic. "I'm Mariah." "I'm Lydia," I reply, fighting to keep my voice steady. It's good to meet you." The inadequacy of the words hangs between us. What can possibly bridge this chasm of lost years? She gestures to the sofa. "Dad says you didn't know about me." Direct, straightforward, not a typical Bennett trait. A flash of pride surges through me. "No," I confirm, sitting where indicated. I didn't know. If I had known, I trail off, unsure how to finish that sentence without vilifying her father, her grandparents, the only family she's ever known. If you had known? What? She prompts, fixing me with a gaze so like my own it's disorienting. If I had known, I say carefully, I would have moved heaven and earth to be part of your life. She studies me, searching for the lie. Another non-Bennett trait. They never questioned, only judged. Dad says you're a financial consultant now, that you help people. I nod. That's right. I work with banks and institutions to protect vulnerable clients. Because of what happened with Grandpa's business, my eyes flick to Daniel, who looks distinctly uncomfortable. How much does she know? Partly, I acknowledge. That experience shaped my understanding of how financial systems can be misused. She nods, processing this. Are you going to get tested to see if you can be my donor? The directness of the question startles me. Daniel steps forward. Mariah, we discussed this. That's not why Lydia is here today. Isn't it? She challenges, looking between us. Everyone's been tiptoeing around it, but that's why you found her now, isn't it? Because I need a kidney and none of you match. The silence confirms her suspicion. She turns back to me, her expression both vulnerable and defiant. It's okay if you don't want to, she says, her voice smaller now. I know you don't really know me. You don't owe me anything. The maturity in her words breaks something inside me. This child, my child, has been raised in the Bennett household, yet somehow maintained a sense of fairness, of empathy, qualities the Bennetts always lacked. I do want to get tested, I say, surprising myself with the certainty in my voice. But, Mariah, regardless of whether I'm a match or not, I'd like to get to know you. If that's something you want too. For the first time, her composed facade cracks slightly. Hope and wariness war in her expression. I'd like that, she says softly. I've always wondered about you. Daniel clears his throat. Why don't I give you two some time to talk? I'll be in the kitchen if you need anything. As he leaves, Mariah and I are left facing each other, mother and daughter, strangers and yet undeniably connected, navigating the beginning of a relationship that should have started 14 years ago. I'll edit the part where there's an abrupt change in setting to make the transition smoother. The afternoon passes in a blur of careful conversation. Mariah shows me her room, filled with books and science awards. She wants to be a doctor, she tells me. I learn she plays violin, loves classic films, and has her father's head for numbers, but thankfully, none of his family's calculating nature. She asks about my life, my work, where I grew up. Simple questions with complicated answers. I edit as I go, softening the sharp edges of my past. She doesn't need to know yet how her grandparents broke me, how Daniel stood by and watched, how I dismantled their financial empire in retaliation. Those truths can wait. What strikes me most is her resilience. Despite her illness, despite the sterile medical equipment tucked discreetly in corners of her room, she carries herself with a quiet determination that resonates deep within me. I recognize it. It's the same force that pulled me through my darkest days after Frankfurt. Dad says you're really smart, she says as we sit on the window seat in her room. That you figured out Grandpa's whole financial system even though you weren't trained in finance. I smile tightly. I had good motivation. She studies me with those perceptive eyes. You don't like them much, do you? Grandma and Grandpa. We have a complicated history, I admit, wondering how much Daniel has told her. They don't talk about you, she says matter-of-factly. When I asked about my mom growing up, they'd change the subject. It wasn't until I got sick that Dad finally showed me pictures, told me your name. The revelation stings. They erased me so completely that my own daughter grew up without even knowing my name. I'm sorry I wasn't there, I say, the words inadequate. against the weight of 14 lost years. She shrugs, but I can see the hurt beneath the casual gesture. Not your fault. You didn't know about me. When it's time to leave, we exchange phone numbers. A surreal moment, programming my daughter's contact information as if she's a new business acquaintance rather than my own flesh and blood. Daniel walks me to the door. Thank you, he says quietly, for coming, for being kind to her. I'm not doing it for you, I reply, keeping my voice low so Mariah won't hear. I'm doing it for her. I know. He hesitates. About the testing, I'll call the hospital tomorrow. Set it up. Relief flickers across his face. Lydia, Don't. I cut him off. This doesn't fix what happened. This doesn't make us friends. His expression falls slightly. We were more than friends once. And then you and your family left me stranded in a foreign country as a test. We're well beyond reconciliation, Daniel. Before he can respond, I turn and walk to my waiting car, emotions churning beneath my carefully composed exterior. The next morning, I make the call to Northwestern Memorial Hospital's transplant center. My voice is steady as I explain the situation, a daughter I've just discovered, a genetic match confirmed through private testing, a desire to move forward as a potential donor. The coordinator is professional, efficient, scheduling my initial evaluation for the following day. The medical testing process is swift, clinical. Blood drawn, tissue typed, forms signed. Through it all, I feel strangely detached, as if watching myself from a distance. This body, which has been solely mine for 41 years, might soon surrender a piece of itself to the daughter I never knew. 3 days after my tests, my phone rings. It's the transplant coordinator. Ms. Collins, we have your results. A pause that stretches like eternity. You're a match. A very good match, actually. Despite having prepared myself for this possibility, the reality hits like a physical blow. I am a match. I can save my daughter's life. The choice I thought would be difficult suddenly seems obvious, inevitable. What happens next? I ask, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. She outlines the process. More tests, psychological evaluations, the surgery itself, recovery time. 6 weeks minimum before I can return to work. Longer before I'm fully recovered. And the risks? I prompt. All surgery carries risks, she acknowledges. But kidney donation is relatively safe. The most common complications are infection, bleeding, or reactions to anesthesia. Long-term, most donors live perfectly normal lives with one kidney. After the call, I sit at my desk, staring at the calendar on my computer. My carefully scheduled life will need to be completely reorganized. Client meetings postponed, projects delegated, recovery time accommodated. But beneath the logistical concerns lies a deeper question. What happens after? If I do this, if I give Mariah my kidney, what role will I play in her life going forward? Will the Bennetts allow me regular contact, or will they take what they need and push me away again? I need guidance from someone who understands the tangled web of family obligation, someone who has navigated complicated family dynamics and emerged whole. I pull out my phone and dial a number I haven't used in years. Dr. Maxwell's office, a receptionist answers. This is Lydia Collins. I need to schedule an appointment with Dr. Maxwell. It's urgent. 2 hours later, I'm sitting in the familiar office where I spent so many hours after the Frankfurt incident. Dr. Claudia Maxwell hasn't changed much, her silver hair perhaps a shade whiter, the lines around her eyes a bit deeper, but her penetrating gaze is exactly as I remember. 15 years, she says, studying me. You've done well for yourself, Lydia. I followed your advice, I reply. Built a life focused on helping others avoid what happened to me. She nods approvingly. And now, the Bennetts have resurfaced. With a daughter you never knew existed, I explain the situation. Mariah's illness, the transplant, my matching results, the complex emotions swirling beneath my decision. You're afraid, she observes when I finish, not of the surgery itself, but of what comes after. The Bennetts. Take what they want and discard the rest, I say, the old bitterness rising. What if they're using Mariah's illness to get what they need from me, only to shut me out again once she's recovered? Dr. Maxwell considers this, fingers steepled beneath her chin. That's certainly possible given their history, but there's something you're not considering. What's that? Mariah herself. She's 14, not 4. Old enough to have agency in this relationship, to maintain contact with you if she chooses, regardless of what her father or grandparents want. The observation shifts something in my perspective. I've been thinking of Mariah as a pawn in the Bennetts' game, not as an individual with her own will, her own desires. You've spent 15 years helping others reclaim their power, Dr. Maxwell continues. Perhaps it's time to help Mariah find hers, and in doing so, reclaim a piece of yourself that was taken from you. What if I'm not ready to be a mother? The question emerges unbidden, exposing my deepest fear. Dr. Maxwell smiles gently. From what you've told me about your meeting with Mariah, you already are. The question is whether you're ready to claim that role officially. She leans forward. Lydia, when you came to me 15 years ago, you were shattered. The Bennetts had broken you into pieces, and we worked together to reassemble those pieces into something stronger. But there was always a hole, a space where family should have been. Perhaps this is the universe's way of filling that hole. Or the Bennetts' way of exploiting it, I counter. Perhaps, but consider this. What if the greatest revenge against the Bennetts isn't destroying their finances or exposing their crimes, but becoming the mother they never wanted you to be? What if your victory lies in forming a bond with Mariah that they can never break? Her words resonate with something deep inside me, a truth I've been avoiding since I first saw Mariah's photo. This isn't just about a kidney. This is about reclaiming what was stolen from me. Motherhood, family, connection. The Bennetts will fight me, I say. They won't let me into her life easily. No, Dr. Maxwell agrees. They won't, which means you need to be prepared for that fight. Legally, emotionally, financially, you need to decide if Mariah is worth fighting for. As I leave her office, the question follows me. Is Mariah worth fighting for? Worth disrupting the safe, controlled life I've built? Worth facing the Bennetts, again with all their manipulation and cruelty? The answer comes as I reach my car, simple and irrefutable. Yes, she is worth everything. I pull out my phone and call my lawyer. Amanda? I've decided. I'm going to donate the kidney. But I need you to draw up the most comprehensive custody agreement possible. Joint legal custody, guaranteed visitation, decision-making authority for medical and educational matters. The Bennetts won't agree to that, she warns. Then they don't get my kidney, I reply, a new resolve hardening within me. It's time they learned that some things can't be taken. Some things must be earned. Absolutely not. Mason Bennett's voice fills Daniel's living room, his face flushed with anger. This is extortion. I sit calmly across from him, Amanda beside me, legal documents spread across the coffee table between us. Daniel stands by the window, tension radiating from his shoulders. Mariah is at a friend's house. I insisted she be elsewhere for this meeting. It's not extortion, Mr. Bennett, Amanda replies coolly. It's a standard custody agreement between biological parents. There's nothing standard about this situation, Mariah, the elder, snaps. Her perfectly coiffed hair and designer outfit can't disguise how the years have worn her down. Lydia abandoned her parental rights years ago. I didn't know I was pregnant, I reply evenly. Your son kept that information from me, as did you. We're not debating ancient history, Mason dismisses with a wave of his hand. The fact remains that you're using Mariah's illness as leverage to force your way into her life. The irony is breathtaking. That's an interesting perspective, considering you only contacted me because you need my kidney. Daniel clears his throat. This isn't getting us anywhere. The fact is, Lydia is Mariah's mother. She's a match. She's willing to donate. We should be grateful, not hostile. Mason turns on his son, eyes flashing. Grateful? She destroyed our family. She triggered the investigation that cost us everything. You did that yourselves, I interject calmly. When you decided to commit financial fraud on a massive scale. We made strategic investments, Mariah corrects primly. You falsified documents and misappropriated client funds, I counter. But that's not why we're here today, Amanda taps the papers. These terms are non-negotiable. Ms. Collins is willing to undergo major surgery to save her daughter's life. In return, she expects legal recognition of her parental rights and a formalized visitation schedule. Mason leans forward, eyes narrowed. And if we refuse? Then you'll need to find another donor, I say simply. Daniel makes a strangled sound. Dad, please. This is Mariah's life we're talking about. Mason and Mariah exchange a look loaded with unspoken communication, a Bennett family specialty. We'll need time to review these terms, Mason says finally. You have 24 hours. Amanda replies. The transplant committee meets on Thursday. They require all family matters to be resolved before approving the surgery. As we gather our things to leave, Daniel follows us to the door. Lydia, wait. He glances back to ensure his parents are out of earshot. You know they'll try to find a loophole, a way around this agreement. I'm counting on it, I reply. That's why we've made it airtight. His expression is pained. This isn't just about legal documents. It's about Mariah, about her well-being. I agree completely. That's why I'm not leaving her future in the hands of people who think abandonment is a reasonable family tradition. He flinches. I've changed, Lydia. We're not the same people we were 15 years ago. I study him, searching for the truth. Behind his words, there's a weariness in his eyes, a humility that wasn't there before. Still, prove it, I say. Sign the agreement. Stand up to your parents. Put Mariah first for once. The next morning, I wake to a text from Daniel. They'll sign, with one condition. My lawyer advises against meeting without her present, but this feels like something I need to handle personally. I agree to coffee at a neutral location, a busy cafe in the Loop where the public setting will keep everyone civil. Mason and Mariah are already seated when I arrive, Daniel beside them looking uncomfortable. I slide into the empty chair, nodding acknowledgement but not offering pleasantries. Your condition? I prompt. Mason slides a document across the table. We'll sign your custody agreement, but we want something in writing from you first. I scan the paper. A non-disclosure agreement, prohibiting me from discussing the Bennett's financial history, business dealings, or the circumstances surrounding my departure from the family with anyone, including Mariah. You want me to promise never to tell my own daughter the truth about what happened? I clarify. We want to protect her from unnecessary pain, Mariah says, her voice honeyed with false concern. Dwelling on the past will only hurt her recovery. I look at Daniel, who can't meet my eyes. And you agree with this? He shifts uncomfortably. I think Mariah deserves to know her mother without the weight of old conflicts coloring their relationship. I fold the NDA and slide it back. No. Mason's jaw tightens. Then we have nothing more to discuss. On the contrary, I say calmly, we have everything to discuss. Because this isn't about protecting Mariah from pain. It's about protecting yourselves from accountability. That's absurd, Mariah sniffs. Is it? You abandoned me in a foreign country without money or documentation as a test. You stole my trust fund. You hid my pregnancy and kept my child from me for 14 years. And now you're willing to jeopardize her health to avoid having her learn the truth? Daniel pales. No one is jeopardizing her health, aren't they? Because I'm still willing to donate. I'm still willing to sign the custody agreement. The only obstacle here is your parents' insistence that Mariah never learn who they really are. Mason leans forward, voice lowered to a threatening murmur. We rebuilt our lives after what you did. We won't let you destroy our relationship with our granddaughter. You did that yourselves the moment you decided to use her illness to bring me back into your orbit. I stand, gathering my purse. My offer stands. Kidney for custody. No NDAs, no secrets, no manipulation. You have until tomorrow morning to decide. After that, I'll tell Mariah everything myself and let her make her own choice about who she wants in her life. As I turn to leave, Daniel follows me out. Lydia, wait. He catches my arm outside the cafe. You don't understand what you're doing. My parents... I understand perfectly. I cut him off. Your parents still control you, just like they did 15 years ago. And now they're trying to control Mariah the same way. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. Your daughter is sick, Daniel. She needs a kidney. I'm willing to give her mine. The only thing standing in the way is your parents' obsession with keeping their dirty secrets buried. His shoulders slump in defeat. What do you want me to do? For a moment I glimpse the man I once thought I loved. Uncertain, malleable, perpetually, caught between duty to his family and his own moral compass. Choose your daughter, I say simply. For once in your life, choose what's right over what's easy. As I walk away, my phone buzzes with a text from Mariah, my Mariah, the daughter. I'm just beginning to know. Dad told me about the meeting. Are you still going to be my donor? My heart clenches. Yes, I reply. No matter what. Another text follows quickly. Can I see you tomorrow? Just us? The request sends a surge of hope through me. Of course. Name the place. The hospital cafeteria wasn't my first choice for a heart-to-heart, but Mariah has tests scheduled all morning. She picks at a salad across from me, looking smaller in her hospital gown, more vulnerable. Dad told me Grandma and Grandpa are making things difficult, she says, without preamble. I choose my words carefully. They're concerned about how our relationship might develop. She gives me a look far too knowing for 14. They don't want me to know why you left. Surprised by her directness, I hesitate. What has your father told you? That you got divorced? Before he knew about me. That things were complicated. She makes air quotes around the word. But I've heard things over the years. Arguments, whispers. I know Grandpa did something bad with money. I know they made you do tests to prove yourself worthy of the family. My breath catches. She knows more than anyone has given her credit for. Why are you telling me this? I ask gently. She meets my eyes, suddenly looking very much like me at that age, determined, uncompromising. Because I want you to know that whatever agreement you make with them, whatever they try to hide, from me I'll find out eventually. I always do. A smile tugs at my lips. This girl, with her Bennett upbringing and Collins blood, has somehow developed a fierce independence that neither family could suppress. The surgery is scheduled for next week, she continues, her voice softer now. I'm scared. The admission, so honest and raw, cuts through all the legal maneuvering and family politics. I reach across the table and take her hand. I'm scared too, I admit. But we'll get through it together. She squeezes my hand. Promise you won't leave after? Even if they make it hard? I promise. The words come easily, a vow I know I'll keep, no matter what obstacles the Bennetts throw in my path. I've missed 14 years of your life, Mariah. I won't miss another day if I can help it. Her smile is worth every battle ahead. The Bennett family formally signs the custody agreement 2 days later, in a tense meeting facilitated by our respective lawyers. Mason's signature is sharp and aggressive, cutting into the paper. Mariah, Senior signs with a flourish of practiced elegance. Daniel's signature is hesitant, but ultimately firm. My own hand is steady as I claim my legal rights to my daughter after 14 years. No non-disclosure agreement is mentioned. Either Daniel convinced his parents to drop the demand, or they found another strategy to control the narrative. Knowing the Bennetts, I suspect the latter. "We'll expect you at Sunday dinner this weekend," Mariah Sr. says as we conclude, her tone making it sound more like a summons than an invitation. Mariah looks forward to having the whole family together before the surgery. The phrasing is deliberate, the whole family. A subtle reminder that they consider themselves the primary unit, with me as the outsider granted temporary access. I smile pleasantly. "I'll check my calendar and let Daniel know," I reply, refusing to be baited. As we leave the lawyer's office, Amanda catches my arm. "That was too easy," she murmurs. "The Bennetts don't surrender control without a fight." "They haven't surrendered anything," I reply quietly. "They're just changing tactics." The next day, I receive a formal invitation to Sunday dinner, delivered by courier to my office. Heavy cream cardstock with embossed lettering, as if we're arranging a diplomatic summit rather than a family meal. The formality is another power play, the Bennetts establishing the terms of engagement. "Are you going?" Meredith asks when I call to tell her about it. I have to. It's my first opportunity to see how they interact with Mariah in their own environment. "Just be careful," she warns. "You know how they operate. They'll present a united front, try to make you feel like the outsider." I've been the Bennett family outsider before, I remind her. I know all their tricks, but as Sunday approaches, my confidence wavers. This isn't just about me anymore. Every move I make affects Mariah now. If I clash with her grandparents, she's caught in the middle. If I reveal too much about our painful history, I risk disrupting the only family structure she's ever known right before a major surgery. I dress carefully for the dinner. A simple but elegant navy dress that projects confidence without ostentation. I bring a tasteful bouquet of flowers and a small gift for Mariah, a vintage edition of To Kill a Mockingbird that she mentioned was her favorite novel. The Bennett home is a far cry from their former mansion. The Lincoln Park townhouse is still luxurious by most standards, but it lacks the imposing grandeur they once cultivated. Another reminder of how far they fell after the investigation I triggered. Daniel answers the door, looking relieved to see me. "Thanks for coming," he says quietly. "Mariah's been looking forward to it all day." Inside, Mason is mixing drinks. In the living room, while Mariah Sr. fusses with place settings in the dining room visible through an archway. Mariah, my Mariah, sits on the sofa, looking pale but smiling when she sees me. "You came," she says, and the simple delight in her voice melts something inside me. "Of course I did." I hand her the wrapped book. A little pre-surgery gift. She unwraps it carefully, her eyes widening at the vintage binding. "This is beautiful. Thank you." Mason approaches, drink in hand. "Lydia, white wine still your preference?" Vici. Fact that he remembers feels like another calculated move. "Water is fine, thank you. I'm driving." "Nonsense," Mariah Sr. interjects, appearing from the dining room. "You must stay for dessert. Daniel can drive you home later." And so it begins. The subtle pressure to conform to their plans, to surrender control of even small decisions like what I'll drink and how I'll get home. "Water is perfect," I repeat firmly, accepting the glass Daniel hands me instead. Dinner is a masterclass in Bennett family dynamics. Mariah Sr. dominates conversation with stories about Mariah's childhood, tales pointedly set during years I missed. Mason interjects with carefully phrased questions about my business, each, one disguised as interest but structured to highlight the disparity between my success and their former empire. Through it all, Mariah watches closely, her observant eyes missing nothing. Daniel attempts to referee, steering conversations away from dangerous territory. Lydia's company has done remarkable work with financial literacy for vulnerable populations, he offers during one particularly tense moment. Perhaps you could speak at Mariah's school sometime? That would be lovely, Mariah Sr. says, her smile brittle. Though perhaps after the surgery and recovery, we wouldn't want to overcommit Lydia's time, knowing how busy she is. The implication is clear. They expect me to disappear after the donation, to return to my separate life despite the custody agreement. Actually, I counter smoothly, the recovery period would be perfect for getting more involved in Mariah's school activities. I'll have 6 weeks away from work to focus on building our relationship. Mason's hand tightens around his fork. How convenient. Mariah, my Mariah, speaks, up unexpectedly. I think it's great. Mom can help me catch up on schoolwork during recovery. The word mom falls into the conversation like a stone into still water. Everyone freezes momentarily. It's the first time she's called me that. Mariah Sr. recovers first. Darling, you've always called me Grandma. I think calling Lydia by her first name would be less confusing, don't you think? I watch my daughter's face carefully. This is her battle to choose, not mine. Mariah sets down her fork deliberately. Actually, no. I have a grandmother and a mother. It's not confusing at all. The tension at the table thickens. Mason clears his throat. Mariah, remember what we discussed? You mean about how I should be careful not to upset anyone before the surgery? Mariah interrupts, a hint of steel in her young voice. I remember, but I don't think calling my biological mother Mom should upset anyone, unless they're being unreasonable. I hide my smile behind my water glass. Whatever the Bennetts have tried to instill in her over the years, my daughter has clearly developed a mind of her own. After dinner, while the elder Mariah and Mason clear plates, refusing my offer to help, another. Power play. Daniel suggests Mariah show me the garden. It's her project, he explains. She's been working on it since her diagnosis. Says it gives her something to look forward to after recovery. The small urban garden behind the townhouse is a riot of carefully planned color. Flowering plants, arranged by height and bloom time, with small stone pathways winding between raised beds. It's beautiful, I tell her honestly. You have a real talent for design. Thanks. She sits on a stone bench patting the space beside her. I wanted to apologize for Grandma and Grandpa. They're being weird about everything. I join her, choosing my words carefully. They love you. They're just not sure how to handle this new situation. She gives me a look that's far too knowing for her age. They're afraid I'll choose you over them. That's why Grandma keeps reminding me of all the things they've done for me, all the memories we have together. Her perceptiveness shouldn't surprise me, but it does. Family isn't a competition, Mariah. You don't have to choose. But they always make everything a choice, she says quietly. A test of loyalty. They did it to Dad his whole life. They try to do it to me, too. My heart aches at how clearly she sees the Bennett family dysfunction. Is that why you called me Mom at dinner? To make a point? She looks down, suddenly appearing younger, more vulnerable. Partly, but also because I've been practicing, saying it, in my head, to see how it feels. And how does it feel? I ask gently. Strange, but good strange. She looks up at me, uncertainty in her eyes. Is it okay if I call you that? The simple question nearly undoes me. Of course it's okay. It's more than okay, Mariah. It's everything. From inside, we hear Mason calling for her. The moment breaks. I should go in, she says, standing reluctantly. Post-dinner meds. I nod, remaining seated. I'll be in shortly. As she reaches the back door, she turns. The surgery is in 4 days. Are you scared? The honesty of the question deserves an honest answer. Yes, but not about the procedure itself. What then? I'm scared of how much I already love you, I admit, of how much I've missed, and how much I still want to be part of your life. I'm scared they'll find a way to keep us apart again. She considers this, then says with surprising firmness, "They won't. I won't let them." As she disappears inside, I sit in her garden, surrounded by the life she's cultivated while waiting for healing. 4 days until surgery. 4 days until I give a piece of myself to save the daughter I've just found. 4 days until everything changes again. The Bennett dinner was just the first test. The harder challenges, surgery, recovery, and the battle for my place in Mariah's life are still to come. The day before surgery arrives with a flurry of final preparations. I've delegated all pressing work to Claudine and my senior staff. My apartment has been reorganized for recovery. Comfortable pillows on the couch, easy meals in the freezer, medications arranged in the bathroom cabinet. Meredith has a key and a schedule to check on me in the days following my release from the hospital, but practicalities can only distract me for so long. As evening falls, I find myself standing at my window, watching the city lights flicker to life across Lake Michigan. By this time tomorrow, I'll be in recovery. 1 kidney lighter. My daughter will have a chance at a healthy life. And whatever comes next with the Bennetts will begin in earnest. My phone rings, Daniel's number flashing on the screen. "Is everything okay?" I ask immediately, fear spiking that something might have happened to Mariah. "Everything's fine," he assures me quickly. "Mariah's just finishing dinner. I'm actually calling about something else." His hesitation is familiar, the sound of Daniel Bennett working up the courage to say something his parents wouldn't approve of. "I'm listening," I prompt. "I'd like to come by. To talk. Just the 2 of us, before tomorrow." The request surprises me. Since our divorce, Daniel and I have only interacted when absolutely necessary, and never without the buffer of lawyers or, more recently, Mariah. "What about?" he sighs. "Things I should have said 15 years ago. Things you deserve to hear. Before tomorrow." Every instinct warns me to refuse. Daniel has always been his parents' son, even when he pretended otherwise. Yet, somehow, I find myself agreeing. 1 hour, I tell him. I need to be well rested for tomorrow. When he arrives 40 minutes later, I'm struck by how different he looks from the golden boy I married. The polished Bennett veneer has worn thin. Gray threads his temples, and the confident posture his father spent years drilling into him has given way to a slight stoop. He looks human, fallible. Nothing like the perfect scion of the Bennett dynasty I once desperately tried to please. I offer him water, not wine, not coffee, nothing that suggests comfort or extended conversation. We sit across from each other, in my living room, the city lights creating a backdrop through the windows. "You've done well for yourself," he says, glancing around my apartment. "I always knew you would." "Why are you here, Daniel?" He looks down at his hands. "To apologize, properly, for Frankfurt, for everything before and after." "It's a little late. I know." He meets my eyes. "But tomorrow you're giving our daughter your kidney. You're saving her life. The least I can do is give you the truth." "Which is?" He takes a deep breath. "I knew about the airport plan, not just that they were going to do it, but exactly how. Mom and Dad told me the night before we left Prague. Said it was time to see if you were Bennett material. The confirmation of his complicity should hurt, but instead it just confirms what I've always suspected. And you went along with it," I say flatly. "Yes." No excuses, no justifications, just a simple acknowledgement that lands between us like a stone. "I knew it was wrong," he continues. "I knew it was cruel. But I'd spent my entire life being tested by them too. pushed to achieve, to compete, to prove my worth. It was the only family dynamic I understood. That doesn't excuse it. No, it doesn't. He rubs his face, suddenly looking exhausted. When you disappeared afterward, I thought you'd come back eventually. That you'd realize it was just another Bennett test and we could move forward. I didn't know about the investigation until our accounts started freezing. And the pregnancy? I press. When did you find out about that? 3 months after you left. Mom found out through a contact at the hospital where you had your first appointment. She saw it as an opportunity. An opportunity, I repeat, the words bitter, on my tongue, to secure the Bennett legacy, a grandchild they could raise properly without your outside influence. They convinced me it was for the best, that you'd moved on, that the baby would have every advantage with us. The casual cruelty of it steals my breath. So you just… What? Decided to erase me from my own child's life? He has the grace to look ashamed. We told her you weren't ready to be a mother, that you'd chosen your career instead. As she got older and asked more questions, we kept saying you needed more time. Eventually, she stopped asking, until she got sick. He nods. Until she got sick and needed family medical history, potential donors. I couldn't hide the truth anymore. How convenient for your conscience. Daniel flinches. I deserve that. I deserve your anger, your hatred. But Lydia, you need to know. He hesitates, then continues with visible effort. My parents didn't just want to test you at the airport. They wanted you gone. What do you mean? You were asking too many questions about the business. Looking through papers in Dad's office, they were afraid you'd discovered their schemes. A cold realization washes over me. Frankfurt wasn't just a test. It was elimination. He nods, unable to meet my eyes. They never expected you to make it home. They thought you'd be stranded, desperate, forced to call your family for help. When you not only got back but triggered an international financial investigation. He shakes his head. They were blindsided. And you? I press. Were you blindsided too? Or were you part of the plan to ruin me? I was a coward, he says simply. I knew what they were doing was wrong, but I didn't stop them. I've been a coward my entire life, Lydia. With my parents, with you, even with… Mariah? What do you mean with Mariah? He sighs heavily. I've let my parents control her life the same way they controlled mine. The same private schools, the same social circles, the same expectations. When she started showing independence, asking questions, challenging their authority, they implemented the same tests they used on me. My blood runs cold. What kinds of tests? Nothing as extreme as what they did to you, he assures me quickly. But the same principle, withdrawing approval when she failed to meet expectations, manipulating circumstances to test her adaptability, her loyalty. And you allowed this? The anger in my voice is undisguised. Until recently, yes. His admission is quiet but clear. But when she got sick, something changed. I started seeing my parents through her eyes, started recognizing patterns I'd been blind to my entire life. Why are you telling me all this now? I ask, struggling to process everything. Because after tomorrow, everything changes. You'll be permanently connected to Mariah, legally and physically. My parents know this. They're already planning how to minimize your influence, how to maintain control. Let them try, I say, steel in my voice. You don't understand. They're desperate. The Bennett name means nothing anymore. The fortune is mostly gone. Mariah is their last chance at creating the dynasty they've always wanted. I study him, trying to see beyond the practiced Bennett facade to the man beneath. And where do you stand in all this, Daniel? Are you warning me because you've finally found your spine? Or because you're setting me up for another Bennett family trap? The question hangs between us, heavy with 15 years of broken trust and betrayal. "I'm warning you because Mariah deserves better than what I had," he says finally. "Better than what I gave her for 14 years. She deserves a parent who will protect her from them, not enable them." "And you think that parent is me?" "I know it is. I've seen how you are with her. Honest, respectful, treating her like a person rather than a project. That's something I never managed to do." His words feel genuine, but I've been fooled by Daniel Bennett before. "What exactly are you asking of me?" "After the surgery, after you've both recovered, take her. Fight for custody, real custody, not just the visitation we agreed to. Get her away from my parents' influence." The request stuns me. "You want me to take Mariah away from you?" "I want what's best for her. For the first time in my life, I'm putting someone else's needs before my family's expectations." He looks up, meeting my eyes directly. "Before my own needs, too." As he stands to leave, having said his piece, I find myself torn between decades of distrust and the unmistakable sincerity in his voice. "Daniel," I call as he reaches the door. "Tomorrow, when I give Mariah my kidney, I'm not doing it to hurt your parents or to claim what was taken from me. I'm doing it because she's my daughter. Because I love her already, even though I've only just found her." He nods, a sad smile touching his lips. "I know. That's why she needs you more than she needs me." After he leaves, I spend hours replaying his words, searching for the trap, the manipulation, the Bennett family scheme beneath his apparent change of heart. But all I can think about is Mariah, her courage, her clear-eyed perception of the family, dynamics around her, her quiet determination to forge her own path despite the Bennett legacy. Perhaps the most surprising revelation isn't Daniel's confession or his request. It's the realization that the child the Bennetts tried to mold in their image has somehow grown into someone with the strength to resist them, strength I recognize because it mirrors my own. Tomorrow will be connected in a new way, my kidney continuing its life inside her. But tonight I understand that we've been connected all along by something the Bennetts could never control or diminish. The innate resilience that allowed us both to survive them. The hospital room is bathed in pre-dawn light when I arrive for pre-surgical preparation. Everything feels surreal. The antiseptic smell, the hushed voices of the medical staff, the waiver forms I sign with steady hands despite the tremor in my heart. This is happening. Today I will give a piece of myself to the daughter I've only just found. My surgical team arrives for final consultations. Dr. Rivera, the transplant surgeon who will remove my kidney, and Dr. Patel, who will implant it in Mariah. They explain the procedures again, review risks and recovery timelines, ask if I have any last questions. "How soon can I see her afterward?" I ask. "It's the only thing that matters to me now." "You'll both be in recovery for several hours, Doctor," Rivera explains. "But if all goes well, you can be wheeled in to see her tomorrow morning." A nurse enters with my surgical gown and instructions to change. As the doctors leave to give me privacy, Dr. Patel pauses at the door. "What you're doing is extraordinary," she says quietly. "Not everyone would give so much to someone they've only just met, blood relation or not." The comment stays with me as I change into the hospital gown, store my clothes in the provided locker, and settle onto the gurney. She's wrong, I think. There's nothing extraordinary about this. It's the most natural decision I've ever made. This is my daughter, my flesh and blood. How could I do anything else? A different nurse returns to start my IV, explaining that my surgical team is ready. As she adjusts my pillows, the door opens again, and Daniel appears, looking haggard and sleep-deprived. "You're here early," I observe, trying to keep my tone neutral despite our loaded conversation the night before. "I wanted to see you," he says. "Before—" He gestures vaguely at the medical equipment surrounding us. The nurse glances between us. I'll give you a moment, she says, stepping out. Daniel moves closer. Mariah's in pre-op too. She wanted me to give you this. He holds out a small envelope. Inside is a handmade card, decorated with careful watercolor flowers that match those in her garden. The message is simple but profound. Thank you for finding me. Love, your daughter. Emotion wells up unexpectedly, and I have to blink rapidly to clear my vision. She's an amazing kid, I say finally. Yes, Daniel agrees. Far better than we deserved. Daniel, about last night. He raises a hand to stop me. I meant every word. But this isn't the time to discuss it. Today is about Mariah, about giving her a chance at a healthy life. Before I can respond, the nurse returns with an anesthesiologist. It's time, Ms. Collins. Daniel steps back. I'll be here when you wake. Up, he promises. As they wheel me toward the operating room, I find myself wondering if I've underestimated Daniel all these years. If beneath the Bennett conditioning there might be someone capable of genuine change. The thought follows me down the antiseptic corridor, lingering until the anesthesia mask descends and darkness claims me. I surface slowly from anesthesia, awareness returning in fragments. The steady beep of monitors, the dull ache in my abdomen, the dry cotton feeling in my mouth. I blink against harsh fluorescent lights, trying to orient myself. Welcome back, a nurse says, materializing beside my bed. Surgery went perfectly. Your kidney was beautiful. Dr. Rivera was very impressed. Mariah? My voice is a rasp. Her procedure finished about an hour after yours. Everything went well. She's in recovery now. Relief washes through me, stronger. Then the pain medication flooding my system. It worked. My kidney is inside my daughter, helping her live. Rest now, the nurse advises, adjusting my IV. Tomorrow will be busy. I drift in and out of consciousness, vaguely aware of medical staff, checking my vitals, adjusting medications. At some point, I think I see Daniel standing at the foot of my bed. But when I blink, he's gone. A dream, perhaps, or a medication-induced hallucination. Morning brings more clarity and sharper pain. I'm helped to sit up slightly, offered ice, chips for my parched throat, given instructions on how to use the patient-controlled analgesia pump. Through it all, one question burns through the surgical fog. When can I see Mariah? The nurse smiles. Dr. Rivera just finished morning rounds with her. If you're feeling up to it, we can arrange a brief visit in about an hour. Those 60 minutes crawl by. I practice the breathing exercises I was taught, trying to manage the pain without over-medicating. I want to be alert for Mariah, want to see with clear eyes the miracle we've created together. When they finally wheel me into her room, my heart constricts. She looks so small in the hospital bed, connected to monitors and IVs much like mine. But her eyes, my eyes, light up when she sees me. Mom, she says, the word still new but increasingly natural on her lips. You look terrible. A laugh escapes me, pulling painfully at my incision. Thanks a lot. You don't look so hot yourself, kid. Daniel sits beside her bed, looking between us with an expression I can't quite decipher. The doctors say everything is perfect, he reports. Your kidney is already working like it was made for her. It was, I say simply. A moment of understanding passes between us, an acknowledgement of the biological connection that transcends the years of separation, the family manipulation, all the Bennett schemes to keep us apart. Mariah reaches out her hand, and I stretch to take it, ignoring the eye pull of pain. Does it hurt? She asks. A little, I admit. Worth it, though. Dad says I can stay with you sometimes, during recovery, if you want. I glance at Daniel, surprised. He nods slightly. The doctors say you'll both need about 6 weeks of recovery. I thought, maybe you could recover together, for some of that time. It's a significant concession from him, one I hadn't expected after years of Bennett possessiveness. I'd like that very much, I tell Mariah, squeezing her hand gently. The visit doesn't last long. We're both exhausted from surgery and medications. As they wheel me back to my room, Daniel follows alongside. My parents are flying back from Palm Beach tonight, he says quietly. They wanted to be here for the surgery, but their flight was delayed. The news sends a jolt of alarm through me. Mason and Mariah Sr. have been conspicuously absent through final preparations and the surgery itself. I had assumed they were maintaining distance because of our conflicts, but now I wonder if there's more to their timing. When did they leave for Palm Beach? I ask, keeping my voice casual despite my growing suspicion. 3 days ago. Last minute. Trip to meet with some investors, Dad said. Just after our confrontation over the NDA. Just before I'm temporarily incapacitated by major surgery. The timing is too convenient to be coincidental. Daniel, I say carefully as we reach my room, did your parents know I was planning to file for expanded custody after the surgery? His expression clouds. I didn't tell them about our conversation, if that's what you're asking. But they might have guessed? Known I was planning something? He hesitates. My father did ask some questions after you left the house that night, about whether you seemed satisfied with the custody arrangement. An icy certainty settles in my stomach. The Bennetts haven't given up. They've simply changed strategies. Daniel, I need you to do something for me, I say as the nurse prepares to transfer me back to my bed. I need you to call my lawyer, Amanda Fisher. Tell her to file the expanded custody papers immediately, not next week as we planned. His brow furrows. Why the rush? You're barely out of surgery. Because your parents aren't in Palm Beach to meet investors, I say with absolute conviction. They're setting something up, and I need to move before they do. The realization dawns slowly across his face. You think they're planning something against you? Something to do with Mariah? I'm sure of it. The Bennetts never accept defeat. They just regroup and attack from another angle. I've been focused on the surgery, on healing Mariah, but they've been focused on maintaining control. For a moment, Daniel looks like he might argue, defend his parents as he's done his entire life. Then something shifts in his expression, resolution replacing hesitation. I'll make the call, he says. And Lydia, I'll stay with Mariah tonight. Make sure my parents don't get access until we understand what they're planning. As he leaves, I settle back against my pillows, wincing at the pull of the surgical incision. The pain medication makes it difficult to think clearly, but one thing remains in sharp focus. The Bennetts are coming, and despite having just given away a kidney, I need to be ready to fight. Recovery from surgery is a strange limbo of pain and progress. The first week passes in a blur of medication schedules, careful movement, and short shuffling walks down hospital corridors. Each day brings small improvements, less pain, more clarity, increased mobility. But healing is a frustratingly slow process when you're racing against an unseen clock. Daniel stays true to his word, remaining vigilant at Mariah's side. Mason and Mariah Sr. return from Palm Beach and are regular visitors to their granddaughter's room, but Daniel ensures they're never alone with her. I see them only in passing, quick, tense encounters in hallways or the hospital cafeteria. They are unfailingly polite in these brief interactions, inquiring about my recovery with practiced concern that never reaches their eyes. On my 5th day post-surgery, Amanda visits with news. The expanded custody petition has been filed, she confirms, settling carefully into the visitor's chair beside my hospital bed. But there's a complication. Of course there is, I murmur, adjusting my position to ease the persistent ache in my side. What now? The Bennetts have filed a counterpetition. They're seeking to restrict your visitation rights, claiming your medical condition makes you temporarily unfit for childcare responsibilities. The absurdity would be laughable if it weren't so calculating. My medical condition is the result of donating a kidney to save their granddaughter. They're arguing that regardless of the noble cause, the fact remains you're physically compromised. They've submitted statements from 3 different physicians attesting to the standard recovery timeline for kidney donors and the limitations you'll face in the coming weeks. Let me guess. All Bennett family friends? Amanda nods grimly. All, with connections to Mason's former business associates. I stare out the window at the slice of Chicago skyline visible between buildings. So that's their play. Use my temporary weakness against me, establish a precedent of limited access, then find new reasons to maintain those limitations once I've recovered. Essentially, yes. But there's more. Amanda hesitates, which is unusual for her. They've also submitted a psychological assessment suggesting that your sudden interest in Mariah after 14 years of absence indicates potential emotional instability that could be detrimental to her recovery. White-hot anger flashes through me, momentarily overwhelming the surgical pain. They kept her existence from me for 14 years. We know that. But they're controlling the narrative in court, painting you as an absent mother who conveniently reappeared when her daughter needed a vital organ. Words fail me as the full scope of their strategy becomes clear. They're not just fighting my expanded custody petition, they're actively working to undermine the basic rights I secured before the surgery. What about Daniel? I ask. Finally. Where does he stand in all this? Amanda's expression softens slightly. That's our one advantage. He submitted a statement supporting your petition, explicitly contradicting his parents' claims. He's confirmed that you were never informed of the pregnancy and that the Bennetts deliberately kept Mariah's existence from you. This confirmation of Daniel's support should be reassuring, but it only intensifies my unease. His parents will view that as betrayal. They'll retaliate. Probably, Amanda agrees. But for now, his statement carries significant weight with the judge. The hearing is scheduled for next Thursday. A week from now? But I'll still be recovering, which is exactly what the Bennetts are counting on. They're pushing for urgency, claiming Mariah's post-transplant condition requires immediate resolution of custody matters. I close my eyes, fighting a wave of fatigue. The Bennetts have timed everything perfectly, striking while I'm physically weakened, emotionally drained, and logistically disadvantaged. Even my strength, having given Mariah my kidney, has been weaponized against me. What can we do? I ask, forcing myself to focus through the fog of pain medication. We fight back, hard. Amanda's voice takes on the sharp edge I've come to rely on. We demonstrate that despite your recovery, you're fully capable of participating in Mariah's care. We emphasize that Daniel supports expanded custody, and most importantly, we get Mariah's voice into the proceedings. She's 14. Will the court consider her preference? At her age, the judge will definitely take her wishes into account, especially in a case with such unusual circumstances. I nod slowly, processing our options. I need to see her, to explain what's happening without unduly influencing her. Daniel's arranged it. Tomorrow morning, he's bringing her to your room while his parents are meeting with their lawyers. After Amanda leaves, I lie awake despite my exhaustion, calculating moves and counter-moves. The Bennetts excel at long-term strategy. They've been planning this since the moment they learned I was a match for Mariah. My donation was never going to soften their stance. It merely gave them new ammunition in their campaign to control access to my daughter. Morning brings Mariah, wheeled into my room by Daniel. She looks stronger than when I last saw her 3 days ago. More color in her cheeks, more energy in her movements. My kidney is doing its job inside her, giving her life even as the Bennetts scheme to separate us again. You look better, I tell her as Daniel positions her wheelchair beside my bed. So do you, she replies, though we both know it's a polite fiction. I'm still pale, still moving gingerly, still connected to monitors tracking my recovery. Daniel clears his throat. I'll give you two some privacy. I'll be right outside if you need anything. Once he's gone, Mariah leans forward slightly. Dad told me what Grandma and Grandpa are doing, about the court stuff. Her directness doesn't surprise me anymore. Yes, there's a hearing next week about our custody arrangement. They don't want me spending time with you, she says flatly. They've been weird ever since the surgery, talking about appropriate boundaries and maintaining stability during recovery. I choose my words carefully, conscious of the legal and ethical boundaries of this conversation. Your grandparents have certain views about what's best for you. I have different views. The court will help decide which arrangement makes the most sense. She gives me a look that says she sees right through my diplomatic phrasing. I want to stay with you sometimes. I've told Dad that. I'll tell the judge too if they let me. That would be helpful, I acknowledge. But Mariah, whatever happens with the legal stuff, it doesn't change anything between us. You're my daughter. Nothing your grandparents do can change that. She nods, then asks the question I've been dreading. Why do they hate you so much? It's not just about the divorce, is it? This is dangerous territory. Explaining the full history risks painting her grandparents as monsters, people who have, despite their flaws, been a constant presence in her life. But she deserves honesty, tailored appropriately to her age and situation. Your grandparents and I have a complicated history, I begin carefully. Before you were born, there was a situation involving their business practices that I became aware of. When I left your father, that information came to light in ways that damaged their reputation and finances. You mean the fraud stuff? The offshore accounts? At my surprised expression, she adds, I've heard things over the years, bits and pieces, enough to know Grandpa did something illegal and lost a lot of money because of it. I should have known. She'd have pieced together parts of the story already. Yes, that's part of it. Your grandparents blame me for what happened to their business, their social standing, their lifestyle. But that wasn't your fault. If Grandpa broke the law, in their minds, family loyalty should have superseded everything else. By not protecting their secrets, I betrayed them. And the Bennetts never forgive betrayal. She absorbs this, her expression thoughtful. And now Dad's on your side. They must be furious with him too. I think your father is trying to do what's best for you, regardless of what his parents want. That's new for him. A small smile touches her lips. Yeah, I've noticed that too. He's different since you came back. Before I can respond, there's a commotion in the hallway, raised voices, one of which I immediately recognize as Mason Bennett's. Daniel appears at the door, looking harried. Time to go, Mariah. Your grandparents arrived early. The moment of connection between us breaks as reality intrudes. As Daniel wheels Mariah toward the door, she twists to look back at me. I'll see you at the hearing, she says with quiet determination. And I know exactly what I'm going to tell the judge. In her eyes, I see a resolve that no Bennett manipulation can shake. Whatever Mason and Mariah Sr. are plotting, they've overlooked one critical factor. The girl they raised is no longer a pawn in their games. She's becoming her own person, making her own choices, and she's chosen me. The night before the custody hearing, I stand at my apartment window, watching a storm roll in across Lake Michigan. Lightning flashes illuminate the churning water, thunder rumbling seconds later. The turbulent sky mirrors my internal state, a mixture of anxiety, determination, and bone-deep exhaustion. 2 weeks post-surgery, I'm physically stronger, but still far from recovered. Simple tasks like showering or preparing meals require careful planning and leave me drained. Sleep is fitful, interrupted by discomfort and worry. The incision is healing well, according to my follow-up appointments, but the process is slower than I'd hoped. My phone buzzes on the counter. A message from Daniel parents hired Jameson for tomorrow, bringing character witnesses. Jameson. Lawrence Jameson, one of Chicago's most aggressive family court attorneys, known for scorched earth tactics and merciless cross-examinations. The Bennetts are escalating, pulling out their remaining connections, spending what's left of their fortune to maintain control over Mariah, character witnesses. I text back, former colleagues, people who'll testify about your vindictiveness after the divorce, your obsession with destroying the family. My stomach twists, partly from surgical pain, partly from the realization of what tomorrow will bring. The Bennetts aren't just fighting my expanded custody petition, they're planning to destroy me in court, to paint me as unstable, vindictive, dangerous to Mariah's well-being. Amanda knows what she's doing, I reply, trying to project confidence. I don't entirely feel. Focus on Mariah. Make sure she's prepared but not scared. She's not scared. She's angry. My parents made the mistake of trying to coach her testimony tonight. It didn't go well, I can imagine. Mariah's independent streak has only grown stronger since the surgery, her newfound health giving her confidence to push back against her grandparents' manipulation. Keep her away from them tonight if you can, I suggest. Let her get some rest, already arranged. She's staying in my room. Parents not happy, but I insisted. This new assertive Daniel still surprises me. For 15 years, I thought of him as merely an extension of his parents' will, a puppet dancing to their strings. But people can change. Sometimes it just takes the right motivation, like watching your child suffer under the same controlling dynamics that shaped your own childhood. I set down the phone and ease myself onto the couch, arranging pillows to support my tender side. Amanda has prepared me thoroughly for tomorrow. We've anticipated the Bennetts' likely strategies, practiced responses to potential questions, assembled our own witnesses, including Mariah's primary nephrologist, who will testify that regular contact with both parents will benefit her recovery, not hinder it. But preparation can only take us so far. Court proceedings are unpredictable, and the Bennetts have resources and connections I lack. They've had 14 years to craft their narrative about me, to build a fortress around Mariah that I'm only now beginning to breach. My phone rings. Meredith, right on schedule for our nightly check-in. "How's the patient?" she asks when I answer. Tired. Sore. Mentally preparing for battle. "You should be resting, not strategizing. The surgery was major, Lydia. You're still healing." "Tell that to the Bennetts," I reply dryly. They're the ones who scheduled a custody hearing 2 weeks after I donated a kidney. All the more reason for the judge to see through their tactics, Meredith points out. No reasonable person would expect you to be at full strength right now. The Bennetts aren't concerned with being reasonable. They're concerned with winning. I shift, wincing as the movement pulls at my incision. And they're good at it. They've been playing this game a lot longer than I have. But you have something they don't, Meredith reminds me. Mariah's support. And Daniel's, apparently, which still blows my mind. Mine too, I admit. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for him to revert to form and side with his parents. Maybe he finally grew up. Took him long enough. We talk a while longer, Meredith offering final encouragement before hanging up. Her support means everything. But as the night deepens, loneliness settles around me. Tomorrow will determine whether I become a true parent to Mariah or remain a peripheral figure in her life. The stakes couldn't be higher, and ultimately, I face them alone. I should sleep, but rest eludes me. Instead, I find myself revisiting memories. The shock of seeing Mariah's photo for the first time, the instant recognition of my own features in her face, our careful initial conversations, the profound moment when she called me Mom. A relationship that should have had 14 years to develop has been compressed into mere weeks, yet it feels more real, more significant than anything else in my life. Around midnight, a new text from Daniel appears. "Mariah wants to talk to you." "Okay to call, of course," I respond immediately. The phone rings seconds later. Mom? Mariah's voice sounds small, younger than her 14 years. Hey, sweetheart, shouldn't you be asleep? Can't. Too nervous about tomorrow. A pause. Are you nervous too? I consider lying, offering platitudes about how everything will be fine. But our relationship, new as it is, deserves better than easy falsehoods. Yes, I admit. I'm nervous. Court is unpredictable, and your grandparents are determined. They've been talking about you all week, saying things. She trails off. What kinds of things? I ask gently. That you only came back for publicity. That you'll disappear again once you've gotten what you want. That you don't really care about me, just about getting revenge on them. The Bennett playbook, exactly as expected. And what do you think? She's quiet for a moment. I think if you just wanted revenge, there are easier ways than giving someone your kidney. A surprised laugh escapes me, pulling painfully at my incision. That's certainly true. I'm going to tell the judge that, she continues with sudden conviction. That actions matter more than words. Grandma and Grandpa talk a lot about family and loyalty, but you're the one who actually showed up when I needed help. Her clarity catches me off guard. Mariah, I don't want to put you in the middle of this fight. Whatever you tell the judge, it should be your honest feelings, not what you think I want to hear. It is honest, she insists. And I'm already in the middle, Mom. I have been my whole life. I just didn't know it until now. We talk for another 20 minutes. About the hearing, about her recovery, about ordinary things like movies and books that momentarily distract us from tomorrow's stakes. By the time we hang up, some of my anxiety has eased. Whatever happens. In court, Mariah and I have begun building something genuine, a connection the Bennetts can complicate but never truly sever. I finally drift into uneasy sleep around 2 a.m., only to be jolted awake an hour later by my phone. It's Daniel again, his voice tight with controlled panic. Lydia, we have a problem, a big one. Background noises suggest he's in a car, driving. My parents are gone. So is Mariah. My blood turns to ice. What do you mean, gone? I fell asleep. When I woke up to check on her room was empty. So was my parents' suite. Their car is missing from the garage. I'm already moving, ignoring the protest from my healing incision as I struggle to sit up. Have you called the police? Not yet. I found a note from my father. He says they've taken Mariah somewhere safe, away from my destructive influence, that they'll bring her to court tomorrow. This is kidnapping, Daniel! Not technically. They have legal custody too, remember? And they're bringing her to court, not fleeing the jurisdiction. His voice sharpens. But you're right. This is wrong. Dangerous. I'm heading to their lake. House in Wisconsin. It's the most likely place they'd go. My mind races, calculating options, timelines, worst-case scenarios. I'll meet you there. Lydia, no. You're still recovering. I'll handle this. She's my daughter, I say firmly. And your parents just escalated this beyond legal maneuvering. I'm coming. After hanging up, I dress carefully, movements deliberate despite the urgency pounding in my veins. The Bennetts have finally shown their true colors, not just to me, but to Daniel as well. They've crossed a line, revealing just how far they'll go to maintain control. As I call for a rideshare, grimacing at the pain radiating from my surgical site, one thought crystallizes with perfect clarity. After tonight, nothing between the Bennetts and me will ever be the same again. The fragile truce of the past weeks, maintained for Mariah's sake, is irrevocably shattered. The dark night of doubt and fear has arrived, but beyond it lies the final confrontation I've been anticipating since I first saw my daughter's face. The drive to Wisconsin is excruciating, both physically and mentally. Each mile sends jolts of pain through my healing incision, while my mind churns with scenarios of what awaits at the Bennett Lake House. My rideshare driver, sensing the urgency, maintains a steady pace just above the speed limit, glancing occasionally in the rearview mirror at my tense expression. I've been on this road before, years ago, during those early months of marriage, when I still believed I could earn the Bennetts' approval. The lake house was their summer retreat, smaller than their Chicago mansion but still impressive, a 3-story cedar structure overlooking Lake Geneva. I remember weekend getaways there, Mason holding court on the wraparound deck, Mariah Sr. orchestrating elaborate dinners, everyone performing their carefully assigned roles in the Bennett family pageant. Did they subject Mariah to the same performances? Did she spend summers there learning to navigate their expectations, their tests, their conditional love? My phone buzzes. Daniel, already an hour ahead of me. At Lake House. Lights on. Parents' car and driveway. Mariah? I text back. Can't see yet. Approaching carefully. Wait for me, I urge, though I know he won't. The Bennett impetuousness is too deeply ingrained, even in this new, more resolute version of Daniel. Can't. If they're planning to leave again, I need to stop them. He's right, of course. The court hearing is just hours away. If Mason and Mariah Sr. flee with Mariah now, everything changes. The legal battle becomes secondary to finding my daughter, ensuring her safety, protecting her from the emotional damage of being used as a pawn in her grandparents' game. Be careful, I text. Remember, this isn't about punishing them. It's about protecting her. I don't receive a response, which only heightens my anxiety. Is Daniel confronting his parents alone? How will they react when their golden boy finally, truly defies them? The Bennetts don't tolerate betrayal. I know this better than anyone. 40 minutes later, as we turn onto the private road leading to the lake house, my phone rings. It's Daniel, his voice tightly controlled. Where are you? Almost there, I tell him. What's happening? They're barricaded inside with Mariah, refusing to open the door. My father says. He breaks off, and I can hear the strain as he continues. He says I've chosen sides and it's not their side. Are they threatening to hurt her? The question emerges sharp with fear. No, nothing like that. They'd never. He stops again. I don't think they'd hurt her physically. But emotionally, they're telling her I've betrayed the family, that you've poisoned me against them, that everything they've done has been to protect her from your influence. Classic Bennett tactics: isolation, manipulation, reshaping the narrative to cast themselves as protectors rather than controllers. Have you called the police? Not yet. I'm trying to avoid turning this into a public spectacle. The hearing is in 6 hours, Lydia. If the media gets wind of a police standoff at the Bennett Lake House, I understand. And I do. Despite everything, Daniel is trying to protect Mariah from public trauma. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Don't do anything until I arrive. As my car pulls up the long driveway, I see Daniel pacing on the front lawn, phone pressed to his ear, gesturing emphatically. The lake house looms behind him, windows illuminated but curtains drawn. No sign of movement inside, but I know they're watching. Mason and Mariah Sr. calculating their next move, using their granddaughter as leverage in a game that's spiraled beyond anyone's control. The pain in my side is a constant throb now, but I push it aside as I carefully exit the car. For Mariah, I can endure anything. Even facing the Bennetts on their home territory, even confronting the people who once abandoned me in an airport and are now holding my daughter hostage. Daniel ends his call as I approach. My lawyer, he explains grimly. If they don't open the door in the next 30 minutes, he's filing an emergency motion first thing when the courthouse opens. I nod, studying the house, considering options. Have you tried talking to Mariah directly? Called her phone? They've taken it. Dad told me she doesn't want to talk to either of us right now. His expression darkens. But I don't believe that. Not for a second. Neither do I. The Mariah I've come to know in these past weeks, perceptive, determined, fiercely independent, wouldn't willingly participate in this drama, which means she's either being coerced or manipulated, neither of, which I can tolerate. We need a new approach, I say, a strategy forming. The Bennetts respond to power, to leverage. Let's give them some. Daniel raises an eyebrow. What are you thinking? That it's time to stop playing defense. I pull out my phone and start using the one thing they still care about against them. The Bennett family has always cared about one thing above all else: their reputation. Even after the financial collapse, even after losing their social standing, they've clung to the remnants of their public image. The lake house, one of the few assets they managed to protect during the investigation, represents their last claim to their former prestige. Who are you calling? Daniel asks as I scroll through my contacts. Regina Martinez at the Tribune, I reply, finding the number. She covered the Bennett financial scandal 15 years ago. She'll be very interested in the latest chapter of the story. Daniel's eyes widen. You're going to the press? I'm going to threaten to go to the press, I clarify. There's a difference. As the phone rings, I focus on the lake house, picturing Mason and Mariah Sr. inside, feeding my daughter their twisted version of events, framing me as the villain who destroyed their family fortune, portraying Daniel as weak, misguided, manipulated by his vindictive ex-wife. Martinez, a crisp voice answers. Regina, it's Lydia Collins. A pause. The Lydia Collins who blew the whistle on Mason Bennett's financial empire? It's been a while. I have a story you might be interested in, I say, watching Daniel's nervous expression. About the Bennetts. About their granddaughter, my daughter, who they kept hidden from me for 14 years. About how they're now holding her in their lake house against her will on the morning of our custody hearing. Regina's journalistic instincts kick in immediately. Where are you right now? Outside the Bennett Lake House, Mason and Mariah have barricaded themselves inside with my 14-year-old daughter who recently received my kidney in a transplant surgery. Jesus, Regina breathes. Wait, you said your daughter? You have a child with Daniel Bennett? A child I didn't know existed until they needed my kidney, I confirm. I'm prepared to give you an exclusive, Regina. The full story, the abandonment in Frankfurt, the financial crimes, the hidden pregnancy, the kidney donation, and now this desperate attempt to maintain control over my daughter. I have documentation to back everything up. Even Daniel looks impressed by the calculated precision of my approach. We both know I have no intention of actually exposing Mariah to the media spotlight, but the Bennetts don't know that. I can have a photographer and a reporter there in 40 minutes, Regina says eagerly. Let me call you back in 15, I reply. I want to give the Bennetts one last chance to resolve this privately for my daughter's sake. After hanging up, I turn to Daniel. Call your father. Tell him Regina Martinez is on her way with a photographer. Tell him what I'm prepared to reveal. Daniel hesitates only briefly before dialing. I can hear Mason's voice answering, sharp with anger. Daniel's side of the conversation is calm, measured, detailing exactly what will happen if they don't open. The door immediately, the media exposure, the public humiliation, the impact on what remains of the Bennett name. As he speaks, I notice movement behind one of the curtains. Someone watching us, assessing the threat. Good. Let them see us united, determined, unwilling to back down. Daniel ends the call, looking both exhausted and exhilarated. He says we're bluffing. Then he doesn't know me very well, I reply, already dialing Regina back. I survived their worst and rebuilt my life once. I have nothing to lose by exposing them now. Before Regina answers, the front door of the lake house opens. Mariah Sr. stands in the doorway, her perfect posture and elegant appearance a stark contrast to the desperation in her eyes. This is unnecessary, she calls, voice carrying across the lawn. Mariah is perfectly safe. We're simply having a family discussion before the hearing. A discussion she can't leave? With her phone confiscated? I challenge, moving closer despite the pain radiating from my incision. That's not a discussion, Mariah. That's imprisonment. Always so dramatic, she sighs, but I can see the calculation behind her dismissive tone. She's weighing options, considering consequences, realizing that this time, the Bennetts have overplayed their hand. Where is my daughter? I demand, stopping, at the bottom of the porch steps. Upstairs. Resting. Daniel steps forward. I want to see her. Now. Something in his tone, a new authority that echoes his father's but lacks the cruel edge, causes Mariah Sr. to step back slightly. Mason won't like this, she warns. I don't care what Dad likes anymore, Daniel replies steadily. This ends. Now. She stares at him for a long moment, perhaps truly seeing her son for the first time, not as an extension of the Bennett legacy, but as a man making his own choices, setting his own boundaries. Finally, she steps aside. The interior of the lake house is just as I remember. Expensive, rustic chic, all natural materials and muted colors designed to showcase the Bennett family's understated wealth. Mason stands at the foot of the grand staircase, his once commanding presence diminished by age and circumstance, but still intimidating. This is trespassing, he announces as we enter. No, I correct him calmly. This is parenting, something you never quite mastered. His face darkens, with anger. You have no right. I have every right, I interrupt. I am Mariah's mother. I gave her my kidney 2 weeks ago, and I'm done letting you control access to my child. Before he can respond, movement at the top of the stairs draws our attention. Mariah stands there, pale but composed, wearing pajamas, with a jacket hastily thrown over them. I want to go home, she says simply, with my dad and my mom. The simple declaration, I want to go home with my dad and my mom, hangs in the air, powerful in its clarity. For a moment, no one moves. Mason's face contorts with barely controlled rage, while Mariah Sr.'s perfect mask slips, revealing naked desperation beneath. Sweetheart, she begins, voice honey-sweet but trembling slightly. You're upset, confused. We brought you here to protect you from making a terrible mistake. Mariah descends the stairs slowly, one hand trailing along the polished banister. I'm not confused, Grandma. I know exactly what's happening. She reaches the bottom step, standing eye to eye with Mason. You're afraid of losing control. You always have been. Mason's voice drops to a dangerous quiet. We have raised you since birth, given you everything, protected you from her. He jabs a finger toward me, and her vendetta against this family. Protected me? Mariah challenges. By lying about who my mother is. By keeping her from me for 14 years? By dragging me out of bed in the middle of the night and driving me here against my will? We did what was necessary, Mason insists. What was best for you? No, Mariah shakes her head firmly. You did what was best for you. What was best for the Bennett legacy you're always talking about? I watch my daughter stand her ground, pride swelling despite the physical pain that continues to radiate from my surgical site. She is everything I would have wanted her to be. Strong, clear-eyed, unwilling to be manipulated. The hearing is in 4 hours, Daniel says, checking his watch. We're all going to be there, present our cases, and let the judge decide. But until then, Mariah comes with us. Mariah Sr. steps forward, making one last attempt. If you leave, now, if you choose them over us, things will never be the same, Mariah. There are consequences to betrayal in this family. The threat is thinly veiled, but Mariah doesn't flinch. I know, Grandma. I've watched what you did to Dad my whole life. When he didn't meet your expectations. I've felt it myself. She takes a deliberate step toward Daniel and me. But I'm not choosing sides. I'm choosing truth. I'm choosing to know my mother. And if you can't accept that, then you're the ones making a choice, not me. Mason's face hardens to granite. You sound just like her, he spits, glaring at me. The same self-righteousness, the same inability to understand what family loyalty means. Actually, I interject calmly, I think she sounds like herself, something you've never allowed anyone in this family to be. Mariah reaches for my hand, then Daniel's, forming a physical chain that visibly emphasizes the new reality. The three of us, connected, a family unit the Bennetts can no longer control or divide. We'll see you at the courthouse, Daniel tells. His parents, his voice steady, but not unkind. This isn't the end of your relationship with Mariah, but it is the end of your control over it. As we turn to leave, Mason calls after us, his voice carrying the weight of 15 years of bitterness. This changes nothing, Lydia. You took everything from us once. You won't do it again. I pause at the door, looking back at the diminished figure of the man who once terrorized me, who orchestrated my abandonment, who stole 14 years with my daughter. I don't want anything from you, Mason, I reply truthfully. Not anymore. I already have everything I need. The courthouse steps are bathed in morning sunlight as we ascend them 3 hours later. After leaving the lake house, we stopped at Daniel's townhouse so Mariah could change into appropriate clothes for the hearing. The drive back to Chicago was quiet, each of us processing the confrontation in our own way. I move carefully, the exertion of the night aggravating my surgical sight. Daniel notices my wincing and offers his arm for support. It's a small gesture, but significant, an acknowledgement that we're in this together now, regardless of our complicated past. Mariah walks slightly ahead of us, her posture straight, despite her own post-surgical recovery. She's insisted on wearing her best dress, dark blue with a white collar, her hair neatly braided. I want the judge to take me seriously, she explained while getting ready. The observation was so adult, so clear-eyed that it momentarily took my breath away. Our legal teams meet us in the courthouse lobby. Amanda for me, Gerald Hoffman for Daniel. They exchange worried glances at our appearances, all of us showing signs of our sleepless night, me moving gingerly from pain, Daniel with shadows under his eyes, Mariah pale but determined. Change of plan, Amanda murmurs, pulling me aside. The Bennetts filed an emergency motion this morning. They're claiming parental alienation, asking for a guardian ad litem to be appointed to represent Mariah's interests. Of course they did, I sigh, unsurprised by this latest tactic. What does that mean for today? The judge wants to speak with Mariah privately in chambers before proceeding with the regular hearing, to assess if she's being unduly influenced. I nod, turning to Mariah, who stands nearby, trying not to look like she's eavesdropping. Did you hear that? The judge wants to talk to me alone, she confirms. Good, that's what I wanted anyway. Her confidence steadies me. Just tell the truth. Sweetheart, that's all you need to do? Inside the courtroom, Mason and Mariah Sr. are already seated with their attorney, Lawrence Jameson, a silver-haired man whose expensive suit and imperious demeanor perfectly complement the Bennetts' carefully crafted image. They don't acknowledge our arrival, a calculated display of indifference that fails to mask the tension radiating from them. Judge Winters, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s with a reputation for cutting through family drama to focus on children's well-being, addresses the court briefly before asking Mariah to join her in chambers. As Mariah rises, she squares her shoulders and walks toward the judge's door without a backward glance. The minutes stretch interminably as we wait. I focus on my breathing, managing both pain and anxiety. Daniel sits beside me, his leg bouncing slightly, a nervous habit I remember from our marriage. Across the aisle, Mason whispers intensely to Jameson while Mariah Sr. maintains her perfect posture, her face a practiced mask of concerned grandmotherly worry. When the door finally opens and Mariah emerges, her expression gives nothing away. Judge Winters follows, settling behind her bench with a thoughtful expression. Having spoken with Mariah, she begins, her voice carrying clearly through the courtroom, and having reviewed the submissions from all parties, I am prepared to rule on the pending motions. She glances down at her notes, then looks directly at us, her gaze sweeping across both sides of the courtroom. The Bennett family has presented me with a complex situation involving unusual circumstances. However, one thing is abundantly clear. Mariah Bennett Collins deserves the opportunity to develop a relationship with her biological mother, free from interference or manipulation. The use of the hyphenated surname, officially acknowledging my connection to my daughter, sends a wave of emotion through me. It's the first judicial recognition of what I've known in my heart since seeing her photo. She is mine as much as she is Daniel's. 3 months after the custody hearing, Mariah sits in my apartment's living room, textbooks spread across the coffee table as she works on a science project. The afternoon sun streams through the windows, catching the auburn highlights in her hair, my hair. It's still a wonder to me, these small physical echoes that connect us beyond our shared history. Judge Winters' ruling was clear. Joint physical custody between Daniel and me, with Mariah dividing her time equally between our homes. Mason and Mariah Sr. received generous grandparent visitation rights, but all their attempts to restrict my parental authority were denied. Most importantly, the judge appointed a family therapist to facilitate healthy communication between all parties, with mandatory sessions for everyone, including the elder Bennetts. The transition hasn't been seamless. The first family therapy session was tense, with Mason barely containing his anger, and Mariah Sr. maintaining a frigid politeness that masked her resentment. But over weeks of regular meetings, small changes emerged. Not forgiveness, some. Wounds go too deep for that, but a gradual acceptance of the new reality. Mom? Mariah's voice pulls me from my reflection. Can you help me with this section on kidney function? It's weird studying something that's literally happening inside me right now. I smile, joining her on the couch. Weird but appropriate. How many 14-year-olds can say they have first-hand experience with their biology homework? She laughs, leaning companionably against my shoulder as I explain the diagram in her textbook. These casual moments of connection still feel miraculous. The easy way she calls me Mom, the comfortable physical affection between us, the trust that's developed despite our abbreviated history. My own recovery was slower than hers, a common pattern with kidney donation. While her young body embraced the new organ enthusiastically, mine took longer to adjust to its absence. But now, 3 months post-surgery, I'm back to normal activities, including full-time work. My clients have been understanding, even impressed by the reason for my extended absence. Daniel has surprised me most of all. Free from his parents' overwhelming influence, he's becoming someone I might actually have been friends with under different circumstances, thoughtful, caring, increasingly self-aware. He'll never be the love of my life, but he's become a partner in the most important project we'll ever share, raising Mariah. As for the elder Bennetts, they're learning painful lessons about the limits of control. Their relationship with Mariah continues but has transformed. She visits them weekly for Sunday dinner, now held at Daniel's townhouse rather than their lake house, a symbolic shift in power that wasn't lost on anyone. They're still struggling to accept me, but for Mariah's sake, they maintain surface civility. Do you ever regret it? Mariah asks suddenly, closing her textbook. Coming back into my life? Dealing with all the Bennett drama? Giving up your kidney? The question deserves honest consideration. The past 3 months have been exhausting, physically, emotionally, logistically. I've restructured my entire life around co-parenting, navigated complex family dynamics, endured painful recovery, all while building a relationship with a teenager who carries 14 years of history I wasn't part of. Not for a single second, I tell her, absolute certainty in my voice. Finding you was worth everything. She smiles, a hint of mischief in her eyes. Even Grandpa's lectures about financial responsibility? Even those, I laugh. Though they're pretty rich coming from a man who committed securities fraud. Don't let him hear you say that, she mock whispers. He still thinks I don't know the details. We share a conspiratorial smile, united in our understanding of the complicated family we're both part of. The Bennetts may have intended to keep us apart forever, but in the end, blood and truth proved stronger than their manipulations. Some people abandon you to test your strength. Others betray you to protect their secrets. And sometimes, years later, when the accounts are finally settled, you discover that what you've gained is far more valuable than what you lost. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.